Welcome everyone from around the globe, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce some amazing guests tonight in our new series of extraordinary everyday women. As many of you know, I spend a great deal of my time here in Asia, and I have for really over 3 decades been very struck by the grit, the grace, the authenticity, and the empathy that I have felt by many, many women in the region. And because of this, I talked to a colleague, and I'm going to introduce our co-host in a minute, and suggested that we featured women to talk about their grit, their grace, their passions, and what they do. So welcome to this event. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'd very much like to introduce my co-host to this. So with no further ado, let me introduce Able Wanamakok. Able is, wow, her LinkedIn profile, for those of you who don't know, is quite extraordinary. She says, I want to live an extraordinary life, not an ordinary life. Her life has taken her from Hong Kong to the US, Japan to Thailand, and she is, I think, what you would call a professional communicator, a host, a moderator. She actually got a standing ovation at her work today, a Forbes coach, a TV personality, a wife, and mother. So, Able, I know that you're going to introduce the wonderful Tulaya, but I hope that captures you and gives you a platform to make your introduction.
Thank you so much, Harriet. I'm obviously, very honored for that wonderful introduction. I think that whenever people introduce me, I get a bit shy. Because of all the roles that I play, but I just, I wanted to say that I'm an ordinary lady who wants to be extraordinary. Because if I'm already extraordinary, I would not need to feel and want to have the extraordinary. So I just wanted to, stay humble here, and try my best to continue to lift up myself and also other people around me. And I think this is one of the reasons why Harriet and I are here, because we have a shared love for Asia. And of course, we're both currently living in Phuket, Thailand. And we love just like Harriet said, we learn a lot of empathy. And for me, especially, I learned a lot of patience from the Thai culture, and also personal and spiritual growth. And this series is about featuring ordinary women who we feel are extraordinary. And this goes to Tulaya, who is somebody that I have not met in life in person, but I have met her. I tried to meet her, but I met her out of all the billions of people in the world. I met this lady. And when I speak to Tulaya, who is based in Bangkok, and she's obviously, originally from Thailand, and we spoke a little bit about her background. Of course, you're going to know more about who she is later, and I think it's best that it comes from her. But she was in the corporate world, and now she is doing something very interesting, actually launching her website tonight on our series. And she features a lot of characteristics that I admire, such as grace, intelligence, ambition, patience, spirituality, reflection, and well, too many things. But I'll let her introduce herself a little bit more. But I admire Tulaya, and I feel that she is somebody who can help to uplift other people as well. So she's a great example as an extraordinary everyday woman. So thank you for this, and I'm very, very happy to introduce Tulaya to all of you.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor. What an introduction. Thank you, Able.
I think that was a bit long. I do apologize. But, people need to know who you are, right? And I think it's very important. So if I can please kick off the first question. and head straight into the series here with Harriet and myself. Now, I know that you started in the corporate world and you were in events. I wanted to ask you, how did you enjoy that life, and why did you leave the corporate world?
You know, the corporate world was really fun and energetic uh, when you start off your career. It taught me a great deal, but in the end, as time went by, the lack of heart and aggressive behavior made me really unsatisfied. It just didn't feel natural to me. And eventually, the depression told me it was time to explore ways to make my life more meaningful, you know, each day worth living, because you spend a whole lot of time working in your waking life.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. And I'm going to pass it to Harriet to continue on the next questions.
So Tulaya, tell us a little bit about you now and what you're doing so that people understand a little bit about that transition, your words on this, and what Empathy Architects is. I think it's very timely at the start with this new website to bring people in so they understand what you're up to.
Well, Empathy Architects, in short, is about open-minded people who wants to connect, to learn more and understand more about themselves and each other and the world that we live in. So creating that deeper connection with not only ourselves, but to environment, to Mother Earth. And that's where I've come to after those years of corporate life. And it all began with a blessing in disguise when I had a lower back hernia 20 years ago that got me started on a journey to really overcome the pain that I was dealing with every single day. And that has brought me to this point in my life where I realized the spiritual practice and the energetic transformation that I gained from this 20 years journey has made me so much more happy within and peaceful and able to respond to life and challenges in a more empathic way.
Well, the journey that you described there must have required a lot of resilience, a lot of strength to overcome extraordinary back pain, to find your place in the new world. Tell us how you draw on that. Tell us where it comes from. Tell us how you breathe life into your grace and your grit.
You know, it's all about being really intentional and mindful and purposeful in everything I do. And that's an attempt every single moment. Every choice you make can create the future. And so I usually go into my spiritual practice, and my daily self-care is really, really important. I'm really grateful to be here in Thailand where I can just hop on the car and go to the onsen, have a massage weekly. But essentially, being realistic, it's all about just making time to connect with your heart, your body, and make room for your spirit. It can be just as simple as lighting up an aromatherapy candle and just slow down. And that's where I maintain my equilibrium, my peace, and connect to the reservoir of peace that I practice.
And where did this, you talk about this as if, you know, the inspiration came from within. Were there those that inspired you and helped you along this journey to Tulaya, or did the spiritual sort of inspiration simply need to be opened up and let out of yourself? What has inspired you through this journey, or who has inspired you?
You know, Harriet, the biggest inspiration in my life is Mother Nature. Her beauty, her generosity, the fruits. I mean, I'm lucky, we're in Thailand. Fruits abound along the streets, you know. But Mother Nature is just constant with her inspiration, her guidance, her intelligence. I mean, she's been around longer than humanity has ever been. So imagine what kind of intelligence that she has gained for all those years, billions of years, you know. And it reminds me of this moment. I'm sure you've seen when you go to Ayutthaya, or you can Google it too, the banyan tree that carries the Buddha head. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Now that's a great moment of inspiration for me to see that nature is just so incredibly glorious in those moments. What about yourselves? I mean, yes, sure.
If I may, Tulaya, what you said is exactly the things that I learned while I lived in Thailand, because I've been here for 17 years now. And let me tell you, I was a very, very, very westernized thinker. Very, you know, just outer achiever, you know, growing up in Hong Kong and in Thailand. And I was recently talking to a lady, and I asked her, what does success mean to you? And thinking in my Western head. And a lot of things that she said has nothing to do with outer achievements. And that is exactly what I learned. And one of the reasons why I wanted to feature Extraordinary Everyday Woman in the Asian series is because to teach us the inner characteristics that I feel is more prominent and more needed to be shared and to be gained, so that we can find more inner peace. And when you said Mother Nature, I totally absolutely agree with that, because I need Mother Nature to help me to balance my work, my very ambitious weekday life with my duties as a mother and a wife. And what I wanted to go into next is not exactly the question that I had planned to ask you, but if success is not anything to do with our titles and our, you know, achievements, let's just say, or money or fame, like what I used to learn in America, what is success to you? What does it mean to you? What does that word mean?
The freedom to be happy exactly as I am for what I've done, what I've contributed to the world in my last breath is what true success is. I think the Bhutanese have a practice to always remember death each and every day, and I think that's an incredible practice. But you know, as soon as we're born, each day we're closer to death, but we forget sometimes. And when you do remember that, you know, life is quite transient, you start to take things more, you know, with more intention, with meaning, and what for me, what's meaningful, most meaningful, is to create really deep connection with people, with friends, with Mother Nature. Yes, you know, this amazing creation that we're in.
Those thoughts around deep connection and how you build that and how you give of yourself with real purpose and persistence to build those relationships. I think many who are joining today would love to get some sense of, you know, advice. Every single individual's circumstances are different. Everyone's opportunities are different. But if you can lift your advice out of the specifics, not only to those listening, but as we share the recording, and in my own case with our schools and the mentoring and the business coaching, which is all about giving back and helping for stronger yin inside of this environment. What is your sort of advice? I know you're going to share some top tips a little later as resources, but I'd love to get your 1, 2, or 3 kind of kernels of brilliance that others listening would say, wow, that's something I can go apply.
You know, the one thing that I practice a lot is mindfulness of myself and my behavior. And that underlies in being introspective, getting to know yourself better. That awareness of why you are responding a certain way, reacting a certain way. Because most of our challenges come down to the lack of awareness of our inner sentiments and vulnerability. And being aware of that is really helpful for you to kind of put a pause before you respond to the situation and others. Another thing that I practice every single morning and evening is Thanksgiving. It's an advice that I was given by my spiritual elders of the Native American tradition. You know of the Thanksgiving Day. Well, they do it every day.
Yes.
They offer their Thanksgiving to Mother Earth, and I've taken it in as a daily practice for me, and it's amazing how powerful it is. Because you know what? Your mind and your heart combined is a very powerful force. So when you anchor yourself into gratitude, you can train yourself to flip the script and bring the joy, bring the positivity, and bring the love into your life.
And that's really interesting, Tulaya, because we just had a question in which I think is really kind of pertinent to that point. You're talking about giving daily thanks and gratitude. So I said, you know, any advice for someone, obviously a friend, who doesn't know what their true calling is? How do you know if you have no idea what the calling is and where you want to be? Not everyone is as purposeful, perhaps as you've described. So what advice would you give in that situation when, you know, you're not quite sure? And many of our young people are not as sure of the world we are handing them and their directions. So love to get your thoughts on that, Tulaya.
You know, to find your purpose is to go into your heart. The thing about life after this today, the culture, the society is really brain driven. And we've forgotten to connect with our heart. And our hearts are so deeply intuitive. And if you exercise it and you check in with it and honor your heart, then you will really understand what your purpose is, because your heart will tell you what brings you joy, what makes you come alive, because that's what purpose is about. It's about what makes you come alive in this world, I believe. I'm not sure. What would you say?
I remember there was a study on the waves of the brain compared to the extension of the heart. I mean, I don't know the exact words, but the brain waves only extend out to like about 1 meter or something like that. And then the heart actually extends out to like over 3 meters. And I just remember this fact, and I was like, wow, the heart is so much more powerful than our minds. And I always also share this, that when you listen to your heart, you go much further and you're happier. And when you said, you know, to find a more peaceful and happy life, and that leads to freedom, I think that is true success. If I may, you were talking about a lot of different aspects. What exactly does it mean to be spiritual? Because, you know, like Harriet said, there's a lot of people who may not understand this word. They do not understand, you know, how to listen to their hearts and things like that. What does it mean to them? Or like, how do you find more of the connection with the heart?
So what spirituality mean? To me, it's the understanding that we are part of something greater, not separate, but a part of this wonder-filled creation that makes the world come alive with beauty and connection. My Indigenous elders would always say, all are interrelated and interdependent. Imagine, take a drop, the life of a drop of water, for example, where it goes from rising up the ocean into a cloud, and then it rains into the mountain, and then streams down the valley into the delta, across the city, and then merge into the sea again. Mm-hmm. And now we're starting to realize that if we pollute our water, we will not be able to enjoy pure water. So that's how interrelated we are. And that's what I understand is my meaning of spirituality, that everything's interrelated.
Mm-hmm. And Tulaya, we've had, again, questions in, and I think certainly was very much on my mind listening to you and how you and your Indigenous elders, we are, though perhaps the results of the latest climate change summit would make that hard to believe, but we are in the middle of a crisis, a huge crisis. Your love of Mother Nature, we've seen just here in the last 6 weeks, how Mother Nature's extraordinary flooding has deprived people of lives, of work, of business, etc. But how do you manage? Do you have anxiety about the climate crisis? And if so, people are asking, how do you deal with that? It's wonderful to glorify Mother Nature. And indeed, if everyone did, we probably wouldn't have a climate crisis. But as we are where we are, and the last time we spoke, there was this wonderful scene of you closing your blinds and windows as the wind whipped through your new apartment, and an unbelievable storm that caused, you know, huge flooding across Thailand unseasonably happened. So tell us about all the questions about this love of nature and our destruction of it, and then how do you deal with any anxiety that the climate crisis creates?
I am fortunate that my meditation practice has given me a calm approach to life. But what I have been taught to do by my elders is to move to the positive. That's an Indigenous principle. So what you do is, instead of being incapacitated by your anxiety, you channel it into a positive outcome. So visualizing, moving into a positive alternative that you wish to create by building on the strength that we have, which we do have in our own ways, and work towards it and mobilize it. We're also powerful if we come together and make this change, and rather, instead of giving away your energy to anxiety and negativity, feeling limited, channel it towards the positive ways.
Fantastic.
Is what I've been told to do.
And again, another question that builds on that. I think someone must be out there reading your mind, Tulaya, but this positivity and this, is this something you generally admire in other Asian women or generally in women? Tell us a little bit about how you bring women together, how you help build on the strengths that exist, your sort of Gaia of connection, and what you admire and are inspired by in other Asian women.
You know, I've had the fortunate experience of having lived abroad for some years in my life. And coming back to Asia 20 years ago, I've come to really appreciate Asian women. And what I admire about Asian women is that the grace of true feminine power is still very much alive here. And that's the understanding that we don't need to dominate or use force, but the power lies in how to artfully navigate life and the challenges in gentle ways that assert our firm intentions. So that's how I find the Asian women to be so powerful in such a unique way. Do you find that, Abel and Harriet, being here for all these years?
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
I think I'm here working in Asia for nearly 3 decades, and certainly in Southeast Asia for two decades. I think having started this series, The Grace and the Grit, is something that I admire. I think that countries, governments, organizations would benefit so much more from even more assertion in the gentlest and truest of ways to ensure the progress that the countries need. So yes, I see all of that. I'm obviously not an Asian woman, but I often feel that in that circumnavigating and in that negotiating and in that quiet passivity, time and energy is lost. So in my mentorship, I'm always encouraging a little more of the quiet assertion so that change can really happen in such a strong female way. But I framed it at the very start, Tulaya, the grace and the grit. The time is running out, however you look at your positive force. And so the more women running things and managing things and organizing things and connecting things is, in my opinion, good for society at large in these countries.
I think I wanted to add that there's a lot of power in women, and the patience that a lot of women have, they actually rub off on you. The quiet, the quiet power that they have. But I also find myself when I am coaching and helping other women to speak up, because women tend to speak up less than men. And I am still trying to find that really nice balance within myself, because I'm very Western and I can not very Eastern, but I'm still very Western, and I'm trying to be more Eastern. I'm trying to find that balance as well. So I think that you are a great guide for Harriet and I to showcase and to invite more of that the Asian, even though I am Asian, I still consider myself very Westernized. The feminine power. And if I may ask, I think we still have a little bit of time, right? What do you think would make a more tolerant and cooperative and happier world for not just only women, because we live with men too. So for the whole world, what would you suggest? Because we're not trying to be feminist here.
I think communication is key. I've had the opportunity to really understand the traditions of the talking circle with my Indigenous elders, and I find it really intriguing. They call it a talking circle because no one's before or behind you. Everybody's beside you in a circle equal. And, the other day I was just talking to my girlfriend and she said that, Tulaya, I want to talk to you about something because I know you will listen. And I was like, oh, I'm so honored to be touched. And she confessed to me that of all the 50-some years in her life, I and another person are the only one who actually takes time to listen. So communication is really critical, I find, because you really need to make time to provide the space to allow the person to be heard.
Right.
And we definitely touched a few people because there's a couple of questions that sort of build on that. So where do you find the energy? When you communicate, you're listening, the energy to give back, how you protect yourself when you're giving so selflessly? These are the words that people are using. Do you find that the communication that you're talking about strengthens you and buoys you? People are interested in how you keep yourself strong.
Well, a lot of my friends would say they rarely get to see me because I do take time to be on my own because mindfulness practice requires you to be quite introverted in some ways.
Yeah.
And that, when my well is filled, then I can give to others. So that's a constant practice for me is to keep myself filled up to be able to offer myself and my service to others.
It's so important. And I have a series that I'm doing for December where I'm asking all the great and the good what their special wish is for 2023. And we're a bit early on this, but as you talk so openly before your special invitation to all of the women and the men who joined today's call, what is your wish for 2023?
What I've been noticing now that we're all emerging from the pandemic, I'm seeing more and more people seeking to find deeper understanding of themselves, each other, and the world around us. So my hope is that we will all awaken to the reality that living in this connection from our hearts, our relationship to Mother Earth, and most of all to each other will not be sustainable. We need to really bring about connection in a really deep and meaningful way that support one another towards a positive future that we're all dreaming of. These past 3-4 years, it's been really tough for every one of us.
And you have a special, you're not just saying this and, stay connected. I think you have quite a special invitation to those who joined today, don't you? Tell folks a little bit about, not only have you launched your new website, which is tremendously exciting, but tell us about how you are putting your words into action.
Thank you, Harriet. This is an invitation for everybody who is here with us right now and who will come upon us, encounter our recording in the future. I'd like to warmly invite you to personally experience the sacred space of traditional Indigenous talking circle. And this will allow your heart to be heard your spirit to be raised in respect and honor and accept for exactly who you are. And that's the first step to moving towards a deeper connection with each other and the world around us.
Where can people join, Tulaya?
Just go to the website, empathyarchitects.life, and just drop a chat. And somebody will be right with you with all the details.
Perfect. And we will capture in our little key elements of this talk some of your further advice. But what a wonderful invitation. Abel, I don't know if there's anything you would like to say as I wrap this up. I think we've answered most of the questions here, but anything that strikes you about our 40 minutes together, anything that you would pick up on and like to add?
Yes, I just wanted to say a lot of things that Tulaya mentioned, such as empathy, finding peace, and slowing down. These are a lot of things that you don't normally hear people advise to improve your life or to become more successful in life. Because I tend to hear other aspects that are brought out, but I think these are very, very wonderful points in the way that we are trying to help other women as well, and to help lift each other up. And I also totally agree with what you're saying, Tulaya, that we are all seeking a deeper understanding of ourselves. And I also find myself going through and have gone through a lot of the deeper understanding of myself through COVID, and wanting to reach out to other women more than ever. And I believe that that is also my wish for 2023. And that is to develop more support groups or communities with other women so that we can help support each other. Because as I'm giving, I'm also learning. So I cannot be just a teacher. I'm also a student at the same time. And I just wanted to say that I hope that this particular series is helping to give advice to the people who are watching on how they can have a more successful life in the terms of what Tulaya had just mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, to everyone who joined us, to those who've yet to watch the recording, I think this has been quite an extraordinary yin session. We've been diving deep into the stillness and balance that is yin. We have not discarded any of the yang, which is always there around us. But I think this is a great yin start to the amazing Tulaya. Thank you for your beautiful sharing, confident sharing of who you are and what you're going through. And of course, to Able, for helping us steer this. To those of you who ask such great questions, we'll capture the key elements. We've got some amazing takeaways from the wonderful Tulaya. Enjoy the rest of your days, and we look forward for you to join us again as we bring our next guest to the fore in the early part of 2023. So thank you very much indeed to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Harriet and Able.
Thank you, Tulaya.
And Constance in the back.